Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on November the 21st of 2018. That's right, we're coming to you on a Wednesday.
What?
Again. Yes.
Crazy, Nick.
We've never done that before.
Never. Wednesdays a Weekly Manga Recap. It's a perfect
They just
combo.
can't go together.
Like oil.
We could call it Wednesday. We could call it Wednesday Manga Recap.
Wednesday Manga Recap is catchy. We wouldn't have to change any of our branding. All the T-shirts that
No.
we have, all the
Yeah.
the cars, the WMR mobile that's shaped like a giant.
Yeah, the
WMR.
baseball caps, the
baseball stadium, WMR Stadium. We wouldn't have to get that changed.
catheters. No.
Oh yeah, the catheters would be good. Yeah, it's all still solid. Speaking of which, Nick, I have a little bit of a story to tell you. I can explain some of the bad decisions I've made in my life recently.
All right.
So this past Sunday, my D&D group got together, and one of the players came by. It's like, "Hey, I got these Inferno wings from one of the stores around here. I couldn't eat these. Do you want them?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I don't mind things that are that hot." So Sunday night, he gives me these wings, and I put them aside. And he brought other food, so like we ate other food, and I forgot about the wings. So on Monday, I was like, "Oh shit!" I'm like outside, and I'm like, I gotta eat those wings. So I like set a reminder on my phone, make sure to eat those wings when you get home, because I forgot to refrigerate them. But I care so little about like that stuff. I was like, I'm sure it'll be fine. So I get home, and I forget about the wings. So I start making up a slice of pumpkin pie because my brother has some pumpkin pie he needed to get rid of. So I make up this huge slice of pumpkin pie, and like as I'm finishing, like I've heated it up. I'm like, oh wait, I have to eat those wings. Well, I already heated up this pumpkin pie. I'll just eat both. So I eat the pumpkin pie. Then I eat these Inferno wings.
Wait, you ate the wings first?
No, I ate the wings second.
No.
Well, the pie was going to get cold if I didn't eat it first. Those wings weren't getting any...
You're going to microwave it again!
Those wings weren't going to get any pressure in my mind. So those could stay second. So I ate those. It was a mistake my body immediately felt. Like, it took me like 3 extra hours to get to sleep that night because my stomach kept churning. And about 24 hours later, it was still happening. And I was like, oh, God. And I just kept getting texts from that guy who's just like, yeah, my shits were crazy when this happened. So watch out for that, buddy.
So you were just like, for the next 24 hours, we're just waiting in anticipation of fiery shits
I'm like,
to happen.
oh, God, just let it happen. So I go into the bathroom and I take a dump. And I'm like, it's a very unenthusiastic. Like, after I finish, I'm like, no, that can't. No, it was awful. But I was like, this can't be it. Like, this was too okay for this to be it. And I realized it was like Independence Day, where like after the movie was done, like you find out later, like, oh, that was just the scouting force. And the sequel is going to be the true army. And just like Independence Day 2, it's going to be a hot, flaming pile of shit. And it was.
Well done, Chris. All right. So this Thanksgiving, everyone include when you're holding hands and reciting a pre-dinner prayer, make sure that you include a little bit for the dearly departed Chris's butthole. And
Gone too soon.
All right, now let's dig in. We got manga to talk about this week.
We do.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
We do. And I've been crazy busy this past week and a half, so I'm a little bit underprepared, I'm afraid, but we'll get through this, Chris, just like we always do.
Yeah.
So we want to just get started with the recap portion then?
Absolutely. I told my poop story. Right. I'm good to go.
All right. You're like, I've accomplished all that I came to
exactly.
do.
Nailed everything. Honestly, at this point, I could just like, good episode, everybody. Da, 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 da.
Hey, it's My Hero Academia time. Chapter 206, Match 3, Conclusion. Match 3 concludes. So what did you think of this chapter, Chris?
I actually enjoyed this chapter a lot. I mean, I guess...
Really?
Yeah. See, it's the thing.
Because you've been so negative on My Hero for like the past month and a half.
Yeah, I mean... The thing that makes it better is like there's this entire cool conversation that happens between Ida and Todoroki towards like the middle to end of it, where they have a whole discussion about their characters and like the growth they've made. And, Ida is like, I was too slow. And, Todoroki's like, no, you were very fast. I was the one who was slow. And they have this whole kind of moment together. And I'm like, oh, that's what I actually kind of dig. I'm not as interested in these kind of meaningless fights for time, but like the characters actually growing and changing outside of that seems very interesting to me. So,
and then they talk with Tsunatori, and he's like, "Good match, guys." And the recovery girl comes in and is like, "Get the fuck out of here!
Get the fuck down!"
There are people who are actually injured in here. Fuck off.
But no, I dug it a lot. I mean, it's a little annoying the way it's kind of framed, because we like go back to be like, I don't know, Ojiro sucks. And then Soji just...
He really does. Because this whole entire chapter, the action part of it is basically the match concludes in a draw, because each team has one member in their jail and everybody is down except for Tsunatori and Shoji. And Tsunatori realizes that she cannot take down Shoji in a fight. So she basically just spends the entire rest of the match just using her telekinesis horns to carry herself and her teammates up into the sky so that they can't be captured until time runs out. And that way she forces a stalemate. Meanwhile, Shoji can't reach her because as much as he can, grow things out of his body, he apparently has not managed to master growing freaking wings or anything like that. And Ojiro's useless because
his power is he has a tail.
Yeah.
And he sometimes uses it.
It's not even just that he has a tail, it's just that he's just so bad. He ended up actually getting taken out, it turns out, in a flashback. Because before Tsunatori showed up and managed to even the fight with Tetsu against Todoroki and Ida, he just kind of swam up again, while Ojiro and Shoji were 2-on-1ing Tsunatori, grabbed Ojiro from below by swimming underneath him, and then Tsunatori just fires him straight into the jail cell. Just a straight shot. He couldn't do anything about it at all.
Nerd.
Loser. And that's where we end up now. The score is still tied between classes 1A and 1B because there's one win, one loss, and one draw for each side. And so it's time for match 4 to start up. And we get a little bit of a build up as Monoma talks up Setsuna Tokage, this girl who's kind of dressed like a dragon, basically. Saying, "Oh yeah, she's the other person in Class B who got in on a special recommendation in addition to Horinuki," and he refers to as one naughty customer.
I can literally tell you how little of a fuck I give about this character right now.
Well, you don't know anything about her, so I get that.
My only anticipation right now is like, I hope Bakugo just fucking wrecks this team in the next fight. To give this a wrestling analogy, Nick, we do these very rarely on the show, but every so often I feel like a wrestling analogy is the perfect thing to do. I like characters like Bakugo. They're cool. They're awesome. I'm really into them, and I don't need the manga to tell me who other characters are cool. So Ronda Rousey over here can be built up as much as she wants, but my Becky Lynch blow up dude is way more interesting, and I just want to see him fucking crush faces right now. That's it.
Yeah. We want Bakugo Lynch. Yeah.
Get it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. So, yeah, I am looking forward to this one because it's got two of the characters that I was looking for most to seeing in action in all
Sugar
of
Man and
Bakugo.
Zero?
Yeah, absolutely. Bakugo and Jiro. Bakugo because, well, we haven't... What was the last thing we saw him do? It would have been that test with the kids that he had to babysit with it. So, and that was not like an action heavy thing for him. So basically, since his fight with Deku, really, that was the last time we got to see him in action. So he's probably got some new tricks up his sleeve. But yeah, so that's that. Let's move on to Food Wars then. So,
what was that? Are we angry?
I don't know.
Is it anger or exhaustion? Stupid food.
Yeah, whatever. It's chapter 288, an exceptional set lunch, featuring tourist Megami.
Did this throw you off track? because Megumi was on the title page, and I was like, oh, right, I guess Megumi and Takumi have to still pass this challenge, so maybe this is Megumi succeeding. And then it's like,
no.
She'll probably pass the test off screen next chapter. And they'll be like, what did you make? And she's like, I made a really good Pop-Tart or something like that. And it'll be a one panel.
And I'll be like, oh my God, we missed it, Chris.
And it'll be a one panel thing. And then Takumi will do his one panel thing. And then we'll move on.
So Soma is ready for attempt number 2 on this convenience store test. Ranmaru calls over to Tsukasa, who is already passing. Is like, hey, don't forget to take your fucking money. And he says, what, I actually get to keep it? Yes, you earned it. I took that asshole's money, so sure.
And I like how he's just like, you put him in singles. Why? $500 is really easy to put into a wallet unless you put it in singles. Why would you do that?
It's the only way I can make it look impressive. Shut the fuck up. I'll give it to you in pennies next time.
Dickhead. You want to carry around a 50-pound bag?
It just wails on his face with a bag of $500 in pennies. She goes off to herself, I guess, just to think about it. I was like, that Eishi Tsukasa, he sure is great. Look at all the magazines he's been in. Yep. But she makes... she basically video game terms why this is supposedly going to be difficult for Soma, which is when you look at the statistical distribution of the qualities of gourmet food, it looks like this, whereas as ingredients you'd find in a convenience store are a lot more, gradual, a lot more rounded, as opposed to gourmet food is really powerful in these areas and not so strong in these. So you've got to make gourmet quality dishes when they don't actually have the base means of doing so. If you just cook up the dishes in an okay way, then you're never going to make a gourmet dish because of that.
Let me tell you an anecdote to follow along with this, Nick. So
yes.
Once we passed by a dollar store, and they had a sign on it that said dollar steaks. And my brother was like, I don't know what steak you get for $1, but let's try it. And my brother dressed that steak up as much as humanly possible. Butter, seasoning, everything you could possibly do. And that steak was okay. And probably rat, now that I think about it. But that's the thing. You can't make a real great meal out of a dollar steak. The best it could be is okay.
If you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's kind of a sexy pig now, isn't it?
Black Mirror reboot. So that's just the way lamer premise for the American version. It's just some guys like, oh no, that pig looks kind of sexy now.
I don't want to fuck that pig. They're like, wait, is there a moral here, or is this man just a monster?
Mr. President. Approval rating still doesn't go down. So, Soma sets about cooking up his dish. Ranmaru fails a bunch of people. Your passes. Yeah, okay, good job. Soma comes up, and she's like, why'd you have to show back up? Like, well, I have 2 more attempts, bitch. Fucking eat this. And he presents her with out-of-season Super Osechi set. And it's basically based off of a Osechi New Year's feast. It's kind of like a very, very, very varied bento box, or like a set of like a box of chocolate, but with like actual food in it. Mm. So she digs in and is like, yeah, it's all right, whatever, who cares? It's still all got to be negative. But then she keeps eating it, and she eventually just starts devouring the whole thing. She does the typical, I'm going to eat this very quickly anime thing of picking up the bowl in order to shovel it into her mouth. And some of the journalists are like, what the hell? Why is she suddenly, digging into it when she said it was only okay? And someone says, well, I didn't really do anything special. But what I did was, see, she explains it better. He just talks about the individual ingredients and doesn't actually explain what's special about the dish, so never mind that. But Ranmaru says, It is an entire full-course meal. No matter where you start and in what direction you go, it's constructed to be in perfect harmony, ensuring you're desperate for that next bite. This single box contains what you could call a no-set-path full-course meal. Out of the many full-course meals I've tasted, this has to be the most free form of all. It's so open world, Chris. You can go to the final boss from the very beginning of the game.
That's so cool. All games should be like that.
All dishes are like that. I don't really get it, but
there are
whatever.
Some notions. I know in upscale restaurants, there is actually meant to be a certain order. This also applies to, I think, certain kinds of foods, too. There is meant to be some kind of order into how you eat them. I guess the thing here is... Well, what's strange to me here is, like, she's eating them, but, like, I mean, it's food. Once you eat it, it's gone. She can only do one path. Like, it's like they drop another one. And he's like, you could go this path now. And then you're like, whoa. But she's figured out, I guess, you could eat them any way you want.
Yeah. See, for those of us who are uncultured swine, you can do that to begin with.
Yeah. So. I mean, you can eat your pumpkin pie before you're Inferno Wings, guys.
And just look how that turned out for Chris.
No one can tell you what not to do. You'll pay for it. Oh, you'll pay. You're gonna poop red, but
ew. Someone explains that he was only ever actually able to make this dish because if he had to use high quality ingredients, he wouldn't have been able to do it. But since he was in a convenience store, yeah, there are all these pre-cooked, pre-cut, pre-seasoned meats and all that stuff, and that was actually a whole lot less work for me. So I just threw a bunch of them in this box. So he gets all, taunting and arrogant about it and kind of leans in all creepy in that way that he occasionally does when someone doesn't want to admit how good his food is. Her clothes don't explode off. The implication of the image is that Soma is like a loan shark who has forced her to sell all of her clothes, and he's still collecting money. He's foreclosed upon all of her dignity, Chris.
You foreclosed the shit out of her bra, man. You see it? It's right there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. So Soma passes. Hooray.
Mm-hmm. Done and done. Nothing else to say.
Whatever. Yeah, honestly.
It's like that, again, it's that thing where next chapter is hopefully going to be where something that actually happens interesting that I kind of care. Like, Soma wins. Okay, that's not a shocker. Does he win in a particularly impressive way? No, not really. It's kind of a shame that a contest that was so suited to his talents is one he struggled in. Okay, well, there were 3 other people that we know are competing in this contest too. Are they going to get to do something? I don't know. Probably not. We don't really have that much time to be like, hey, what are Megumi, Takumi, the clown, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Hair guy? What are they going to do? Like, I don't know. We'll probably just be like, they all won, so we can get to the next round. And I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, it's a pretty big disappointment, but hey. I don't know. You got to get from point A to point B somehow, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a letdown, I think, definitely after the last round kind of put some more intriguing ideas.
It was a lot more heartfelt, really. Like the previous one was, him rejecting the message of the test, and this one was him being like, well, it was just because I'm really good at making stuff with cheap ingredients.
Yeah. All right, are we jumping into Eden Zero then, I believe?
Yes.
All right, Eden Zero, Chapter 21, Soul Blade, with Rebecca on the cover. Remember, guys, she's being sexually sold right now.
Yep.
So here's a cute
Look at how cute she is with her Plu pillow.
Mm-hmm.
That thing would stab you in that you could not be comfortable on that pillow, Chris.
I don't know what it's not like it's going to provide any arch support or like any support for your neck, rather. So it seems like it'd be really inconvenient.
The only way you could conceivably use it is exactly the way that Rebecca is holding it right now, with it held so that the horn is like perched over your knees and then you lean into your knees in order to rest on it. Mm-hmm. Because if you try and lie back on it, either the horn will stick into your head or it will be sticking into the couch behind you and you won't be able to get it flat.
Nick is a pillow expert, guys. We haven't talked about this before, but you actually minored in pillowology, right?
I can literally sleep anywhere, so...
So one thing I guess I forgot to notice last week, and it only kind of caught my attention this week when I was like, where the fuck is he? Is that at the end of last chapter, Weiss did not go into the church. So it's just Homura, Shiki, and Pino. And that's where we're at. As Homura, Shiki, and Pino have found Sister inside the statue, and Pino has like this whole thing where she sends a message over to Witch and is like, hey, is this right? And Witch is like, well, the appearance doesn't match, but identification code's the same. So I don't know what's going on, but yeah, that seems like it's her. So
honestly, that whole little interaction was like, this is actually one of the more interesting things that Eden Zero has done. Like having like someone actually be like an operator from not on the side of the battle.
So Shiki's like, hey, you're our friend, right? Why are you acting like a bad guy? Sister's like, mercenaries know no good or evil. There is only the contract. And Shiki's like, can we have our friend back? She's like, you are requested a job. Then you shall die. And like a whole bunch of guards come out. And she says to make sure not to keep their bodies as pristine as possible. And then she does like an evil turn. Because I shall remodel them into my soldiers later. So Shiki does his whole like gravity ether gear thing. He's bouncing around. He's punching into different people. He's doing all sorts of stuff. But then like a big missile gets launched at him, and it's a homing missile, so he can't even run away from it. But before I could hit him, Homura shows up, and she slashes it right down the middle with her ether sword. That's her ether gear, is the soul blade.
Yes.
So that's what hers is.
So it seems that Hiro really actually did want to make Kagura an important character in Fairy Tail and just couldn't figure out what to do with her.
Yep. So he just changed her up slightly.
She's even got the same bow. Like,
oh yeah, I'm sure it's the same. Because you do remember her. He did try to push Kagura more and more as the series went on, but no one gave a fuck. At least we didn't. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that keeps playing into her gimmick.
We're all that matters.
Her gimmick is so bad. She keeps playing into it because she's like, samurais are awesome. And she's like, secretly, I fashion myself a knight, but I shall never say that out loud. I'm like, this has been like 4 chapters and this shit's already fucking old. And there's a whole thing, but she splits her sword into 2. And she's like, I'll take care of things here. And she's too good, Nick. She uses old technique. She does the thing that Hakufu in Jackie Chan Adventures used much, much better. To be like, a leopard uses swift legs to hunt prey. And no one can stop her. She's too good. And
the talisman of balance. Now you will not be able to knock me over.
I do Dice Funk, and I am stunned because apparently no one else on that show has watched Jackie Chan Adventures. Aww. So all of my Jackie Chan Adventure references go completely unacknowledged and unappreciated.
Aww.
But I do it for the fans.
Surely, yeah. Of all the shows out there, Jackie Chan is gonna have some people who remember it. So,
so as Witch is Sister is walking away, she's like, "That sword. So it is, but how?" And then there's a brief moment.
That's not Sister. That's Witch.
Is it Witch? Okay.
Yeah, it is. She's got the visor.
Right. That is Witch. So Witch is saying that. And then Shiki and Homura share this moment where she's like, "Get out of here." And he's like, "Okay." And she's like, "When this is over, I wish to challenge you." He's like, "Okay, so don't go dying on me." She's like, "I shan't." And then she continues to just crush people. She explains that her name is Homura Kogetsu, and my blade is the holy power granted to me by my master. 'Tis the sword meant to defeat the Demon King. And I guess I don't know how long it's going to take for me to remember. I guess everyone's supposed to be British in this series. I don't know.
Well, if she's also fashioning herself as a samurai, they also had an old way of speaking. So
but she thinks she's fashioning herself more as a knight, as she said earlier in the chapter.
Right, so that makes sense too.
Yeah.
'Tis the sword meant to do so.
So again, I think I'm just going to have to start reading this series entirely in a British accent. 'Tis the sword meant to defeat the Demon King, it is.
Yes, that's the British accent that knights speak with, Chris. You're right.
Let's take you down with my sword there, my sword.
Kogetsu!
Kogetsu Momoraru. So
do you think that Shiki just like speaks with a really, really basic Midwestern accent? He's like, all right, guys, I'm gonna go do this, and then, oh, there, Shiki, doggy. Yeah, okay.
It's like, cool stuff, guys. It's really, you can't wait. I want like the weird cavalcade of accents. So Shiki is like a Boston accent, and like Pino has like a really like Wisconsin-esque like. Oh, and I guess we're gonna have to get my leg taken off there. Oh, what you gonna do about that? Oh, that's pretty painful.
Well, what do you reading the transmission data machine up to you there?
So sister gets aboard her vessel. She's like, Eliga is giving us trouble because apparently he asked for 30 B-cubers and we only gave him 29. So he refuses to pay for any of them. And they're like, all right, let's deal with this hassle. So they're flying off, and then we see that stuck to the underside of the vessel is Shiki and Pino. Bum, bum, bum.
Do.
That's a chapter.
So this was actually a pretty okay chapter. Like, it's amazing how acceptable this series can be when there's not a bunch of weird rapey stuff happening in it. So,
yep. I mean, there's some stuff to be kind of intrigued by, like where Weiss is and all this, because surely he heard the commotion going on inside. Like, he's not. Maybe he is just flying behind, but like, it's nice to have moving parts in an arc like this.
Also, I just now realized that Shiki has no idea how to wear goggles.
I mean,
he's wearing the goggles with all of his bangs down underneath them. So if he ever actually tries to wear them as goggles, he's just going to get eyes full of hair.
Yeah. He's not the best kind of goggles kid. You know, Ty.
He's no Ty.
Ty really showed us the way.
He's more was the Takia. That's it.
I don't know. After you get past season 1, I'm fucking lost.
Gotcha.
Then I come back for when they actually turn into Digimons briefly for some reason. And then I'm gone again. Then they made noise.
We're going to talk about We Never Learn next. Well, we'll go ahead and say that there is another RWBY manga that has started up. Nothing really important has happened in it. It looks it's got an odd sort of art style to it. And I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not really feeling the way it looks. But also, like, it's just, RWBY so far. It seems like early RWBY.
It's worth noting, because some of you might remember that we previously recapped a RWBY series that came out in Shonen Jump on our show. Mm-hmm. And our big thing was like, this doesn't make any sense. It's just a bunch of character trailers made into manga chapters and then jumping into a plot that didn't exist or came in way later. This one actually seems to coherently. There are some like differences made and some abridging, because I think it basically the first chapter encompasses like the first 3 episodes or so.
Mm-hmm.
In
pretty much
different chunks.
RWBY getting into Beacon, meeting the most important characters at Beacon, and that kind of thing.
And the whole sleepover. So that all does seem to suggest it's going to follow some level of coherent narrative. So if this is something that people really want us to discuss, I'm sure we can. I think it's monthly. I hope it's monthly. But if people want to, maybe we can discuss in the future. But if not, I mean, we've been through this. And there's no Junior in the chapter, so who really gives a fuck?
I will say, though, there is one particular part of it that caught my attention. So I'm just skipping through it here. During the sleepover with Yang, Weiss, Blake, and RWBY, Yang is in her nightgown on her bed, and she is facing the headboard with one hand perched on the headboard, while the other is she's striking like a model pose while up on her knees in the bed. But she's also carrying on a conversation with everyone while she does this. And I'm like, you're facing the wall while you talk like this. What are you doing, and why are you posing like this?
She's the personable one, Nick. she's the social butterfly.
I'm the one who gets along with everyone, but I just have to do model poses when I do it. Otherwise, I hate everyone.
I talk to the wall sometimes. The wall's my friend, too.
Hi, Wall. How have you been?
All right. Let's move on then to We Never Learn. Is it at the very end here?
It's page 115.
Oh, okay, that's right. There's a cover page. Question 88. The Star of Ultimate Love in the Name of X, Part 4. And Nick, we start N media res. To then immediately go back, basically. Like, we start to be like, Fumino's at home and she's going to talk to her dad. I wonder what happens. And then that's like one page. And then the next page is like, okay, here's that date they promised last chapter. And they do. Yuiga takes Fumino out on a date. And the date he takes her on is to go out in the woods during the night and to basically have a picnic underneath the stars. So they share some tea and Yuiga is up there and he's kind of pointing out different stars, he's like, or constellations rather. He's like, oh, there's Pegasus and there's Cassiopeia and all these sorts of things. And he's like, oh, am I right? And Fumino's really excited. She's like, how do you know all that? And she's like, because you talked to the star about the stars with me the other at the festival. And, I start taking interest from that. And she's very excited about that. And then she gets stupid excited about that. Like, she's like, oh, there's that famous square. And she starts naming all the individual stars in it and going off on a very long, elaborate thing. And she's like, oh, this is my favorite part of autumn is because this star appears. And Yuiga just looks at her as she's very excited and she's naming all these things. And he says, hey, have you ever shared about the stars with your dad? Have you ever told him how much you love stars? And she's like, it's pointless.
He's just not into Hollywood gossip.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care about any of the big couples nowadays. He doesn't even know who Takeshi 69 is. And then Yuiga says, I really love it when you talk about stars. And she spits on her tea and she burns her tongue and she slips on tea. I don't know how she does it. She slips on tea that landed on grass. It was very slippery tea, I guess.
Amazing.
And Yuiga grabs her and he's like, come on. Yeah.
Maybe she stepped on the cup.
Maybe she does. It looks like it's the water, but it could be the cup because I really don't know how you slip on tea when it lands on grass.
Yeah.
But he grabs her and he's like, you have to give it a try. It's hard. There's nothing I can do to help, but I'm pretty sure it's something you have to do alone. But whatever it is you really want to do, I'll support you with everything I've got. So no matter what he says, I'm still going to be there to support you. So then we actually go into the scene itself where Fumino is talking to her dad and she starts to bring up astronomy, and he's like, no, I have no intention of allowing it. We've been over this. I'm tired. I'll listen to your nonsense some other time. And Fumino gathers her courage, thinking back to the promise that Yuiga said that he'll support her no matter what. So she's like, no, fuck you, old man. You old,
basically.
You old stupid cocksucker. He's like, excuse me? No.
Where the fuck did you learn that language, young lady? How dare you use that kind of fucking language in front of me, you bitch.
You goddamn cocksucking whore of a daughter. And she explains, she's like, hey, when mom was alive, we and her, we'd look at the stars, and that's how it got started, and I love them, and I love all these. She explains all her love about stars. It's not worth it to recap that individual nature of it. It's a very nice little speech she gives, though. And she even loves the epic stories of constellations and everything like that. And she gives this face where after she's done explaining, she's like, how could anything be more wonderful? And her father is taken back. Reiji is her father. And we flash back again to a different scene as Fumino's parents are basically going, like, they're in I guess it looks like a school. And she's going over a whole...
They were both math professors, so...
And they're going over a whole big fucking math thing. And Fumino's mom starts going like, I love all the numbers. They might seem lifeless on the surface, but the more you know about them, the more you realize they're rife with miracles. And I love Fumino's dad's like, are you suggesting that mathematics has pathos? She's like, yes. And she says the same thing. Don't you agree? How could anything be more wonderful?
Now, in fairness to her, she has written an equation on the board, e to the pi I plus 1 equals 0. And I have heard math professors say that is like one of the more elegant and beautiful equations in the world because it combines so many basic fundamental numbers into one equation, and it's just so very simple. But this is actually kind of a realistic thing. So,
but how does it translate into Babylonian math?
I don't fucking know, Chris.
I do. 1 in Babylonian math is 1.
It's good that you. I'm assuming that they didn't have like irrational numbers in Babylonian math.
I mean, not that we got into. So we just added, subtracted them, and they were like, all right, this chapter's done. You'll never visit Babylonian math again. I'm like, why? Hey. Why did I learn it to begin with? So we cut back to the present, and her dad's like, you're really serious about that. I see that now. And Firmino starts to get like a glimmer of hope. She's like, yay! And he's like, but no! Boom! And he's like,
swerve!
And he says, no, you have genius. To waste your talent is a loss for all humanity. Nothing could be emptier than that. I'm sure Shizuru would feel the same way. And Firmino's like, okay. And she opens up the laptop and puts it on the table and says, in that case, let's ask Mom. So, bum, bum, bum. And we're going to have a 5th week
password.
Stars. Burp. Woo, really banked a lot on that. Oops.
Shit, I was really confident that would be it. Oh, well, I guess it's lost forever. Sorry, Dad.
Sorry, Pops. So, you're still going to pay for my degree if I go for an English degree, though, right?
Oh, God. So, yeah, that's the chapter of We Never Learned. I think that it's going to... we're going to basically have to wait to see what happens in the next chapter to really get the full idea. But I liked some bits of what we got in this chapter, but it kind of went by pretty quickly. So, all right. From there, let's move on to Dockerstone. Z equals 82. Epilogue of Stonewall. That's not the name of the chapter. That's from last week because I didn't prepare notes for this.
Chapter 83, Dr. Stone.
Damn it, this is so confusing.
Dr. Stone, Part 3, Dr. Stone, Chapter 83, Dr. Stone.
Has everybody got that?
Super simple, Nick. I don't know why it's hard.
There will be a quiz on chapter and part titles after this is done. So we start off this chapter actually in a flashback with Yuzuriha talking with Mirai. And she's kind of like hiding around a corner watching some of the proceedings as Senku tries to prepare Tsukasa to eventually cure him. And she scares her. She comes up, but because of the commotion, Senku hears them and says, hey, we actually really need your expertise with needlework. This is a job for a handicrafts club member. And he's like prepared for an operation, and Kaseki's there. And I like how they have surgical masks, but because of Kaseki's beard, it has to go down to like his waist.
Here we go.
And so, yeah, he's going to have her do all the stitching and stuff because she's the good needle worker. And Gen is like, and we don't have any anesthesia, so is this really going to be okay? And Senku's like, yeah, for Tsukasa, it'll be fine. And Tsukasa like, yeah, I'll be fine.
Totally.
So Mirai basically faints because of this. So we cut to now the present. I'm not really sure why it was necessary to get this flashback because that's kind of where we left off in the last chapter, but oh well. With Kohaku comforting Mirai because she says like, hey, Senku knows what he's doing. His science really can accomplish the impossible. And if something actually is impossible, he'll just tell you. If he's giving it at all, then that means that he can find a way to do it. No matter how slim the chances are, no matter how long it'll take him, he can do it. And we cut over to Senku and Tsukasa. And Tsukasa says that I'm going to die within a few days. I know my own body very well. And Senku agrees. So he's like, yeah, the only way we can actually save you is to petrify you again. And Gen's like, that makes sense. But how are we going to do that? and Senku agrees, like, yeah, I mean, well, we can discover the process to do the petrification, I'm sure, but it could take years. We don't really have that time. So before you kick the bucket, I have to kill you myself. And Gen's like, and so guys just go like, go on. And Senku says that they're going to put him into cold sleep. They're basically going to freeze him and then thaw him out later. So Senku says, like, look, we'll figure out the petrification process. We'll revive you someday, but you've got, to trust me and let me do this. You have to let me essentially kill you in order to save you. And so guy's like, of course I trust you. Go ahead. After all, I once killed you too. And Senku's like, oh yeah, you did.
You did that a while back. I remember that.
Did fucking snap my neck like a goddamn murderous psychopath.
I remember that now. Good times. Good times.
Boy. Oh, my neck still sometimes twists the wrong way.
Thanks for that, buddy.
So they actually go over to the steam gorilla in order to harvest it for parts. And Kaseki actually is pretty on board with this because he's like, oh, my precious steam gorilla, let's fucking do this.
It gets to happen again. Huzzah. I like you, Kaseki. You're so damn positive about it.
So everyone wonders what they're doing, and Senku says that they're building a refrigerator, or really a freezer. And by this point, all of the people from all the important characters from Tsukasa's village who flipped sides are all watching the proceedings. So, Nikki and Yo and Ukyo are all like, seriously, are you fucking kidding me? And Gen's like, oh man, yeah. Finally, other people realize how fucking weird this is. Thank you.
I'm not alone.
And so Senku explains the process of how, heat gets transferred due to pumps and all this stuff, and air carries the heat out, and that is what causes freezing to occur. That's essentially how they make their own version of the petrification beam. He says that they'll probably actually go find the petrification beam if they go down this route. But in the meantime, this is what they have to do. They have to make a considerably more, it's a much bulkier contraption, of course, than he makes. And he essentially makes this giant ice box / coffin for Tsukasa to lie in order to freeze him. Let's see. So the process takes a bit of time. So Senku just starts idly chatting with Tsukasa. And he's like, hey, if you had to go into space, who would you take with you out of everyone who's here? And Tsukasa's like, well, I guess, what, seriously? You just want me to, like, talk to you about this stuff? What, do you want, like, a list of the most competent people? And Tsukasa's like, I'm just making conversation, man. And he's like, well, why? And Senku's just kind of like, what's wrong with a pointless chat? And so they, just kind of start talking for a little bit. And it's like, and so, he does answer the question. And then Senku asks, oh, what about that girl with the shells on her head? He's like, oh, yeah, that was a reporter. She was from the old world. And I figured that she would be useful to me. And time goes by. We get some, a very, very, very brief montage. And then Senku comes in and he has clearly been wanting to say this for a long time. He's like, so then when Mario eats the mushroom, he only feels like he's growing bigger, right? I'm 10 billion% convinced it's a hallucination, which makes sense. I totally buy the theory that it's an Amanita muscaria mushroom, red with white spots, because those are full of iotenic acid, which makes people hallucinate at high enough doses. Okay, man. Been watching a few too many YouTube conspiracy videos, haven't you? But we come back from this, and Senku basically is talking to himself at this point because Tsukasa has finished freezing, and he's now in his icebox coffin thing. they close up the icebox, and then Mirai comes by, and she kind of sheds a few tears over it. But she says that her brother has protected her for so long, so this time she'll protect him. She'll watch over him to make sure that he's okay. And that's a sweet little sentiment.
Absolutely.
And from there, in typical Senku fashion, okay, we've had the big emotional moment. Time to keep on going. And he says that they've got to do some more work. And part of that is because of what the Soyuz crew discovered. They actually know that the source of the petrification beam must have been on the other side of the Earth. So they're going to have to get there. And of course, Suika and Ginro are like, how are we supposed to do that? And Senku's like, even Neanderthals managed to cross Eurasia. And Gen says, yeah, over tens of thousands of years. So that's what their plan is next. They have to voyage to the other side of the world, and we get this cartoonish shot of like Senku on a galleon while everyone else is on like jet planes and spaceships and stuff. And he says, we're going to set out across this planet to unravel every last mystery. All aboard for the fantastic age of exploration of the stone world. So this was a good chapter.
I love this chapter. I was very curious to see how Dr. Stone would deal with the quote-unquote death of a character. I mean, the whole point of this is to see if they can save Tsukasa, but just that emotional hit as Senku is trying to, help himself more than anything, probably through the pain of this moment of killing, someone he considers a friend now, by putting all this idle chit chat out there. And eventually it just reaches this point where he's talking to himself. It's a very sad realization, but very effectively done. And I'm super intrigued by this next step where it's like, oh, hey, we're going to head off to the next part. Because one of the things I was kind of worried about, it was like, there's a shit ton of characters in Dr. Stone right now. Like, there is a metric fuck ton of them. And if they're going on a voyage, I
remember that 2-page spread that was just listing the names of characters who were in the village. Yeah.
Most of them are significant characters now. So I think going on an expedition like this is a good chance for them to trim down on some of those characters.
Right.
Presumably they're
leave behind the most unimportant characters in the village and just have, Senku and the action crew go, basically.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be a couple people from the Kingdom of Science, or from Tsukasa's kingdom, rather, who they want to kind of explore more, like Ukyo and maybe even Yo, I don't know. But it's a very interesting thing to be like, okay, like, I'm curious to see where they go. I'm curious to see what this group's going to look like. And I just appreciate that I was able to deal with, like, the emotional weight of that moment. I get that it's a little fucking dopey. He's sitting there talking about Mario mushrooms, but, like, I don't know, isn't he also like a 16-year-old kid? I remember having a bunch of stupid theories when I was 16 years old, and I was like, guys, you had to... So all the Rugrats are dead except for Chucky.
Guys, I just got done looking around on Tumblr and Reddit, and you won't believe it. Every cartoon we grew up with, they're actually in purgatory.
That really is.
Every single cartoon, that's the actual premise.
So Dexter goes to his lab, and his room is off limits. His room is a symbol of heaven, because that's where comfort is. His lab is his work. That's the monotony of every day, Nick. So he's stuck in purgatory. He can't get out of there, and he's trying to keep his sister out, too. It's probably...
No matter how much progress he creates, someone comes along and destroys it. Dexter doesn't realize he's already in hell.
He's already in the cycle that'll never end. Also, there's a third sibling that's an unborn fetus. Mandar characterizes that in many ways.
What about Lala Vala?
They're literally... Someone just brought up, there literally is a theory that the cul-de-sac in Ed, Edd n Eddy is purgatory.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's stupid. And anyone who comes up is, it's actually purgatory. It's like, you're lazy and unimaginative. Go away. Seriously. Fuck off with you. So... The 7 Deadly Sins time, Chris.
Yes, 7 Deadly Sins, chapter 290. Clever little grubs. So last time, Zeldris was defeated as Escanar managed to use his powers to shut off his abilities and then stabbed him. And his powers were then shut off by Chandler but in a split second, Ludashel swooped in and basically defeated him. Did not finish him off, as she starts this chapter by saying, now to finish you off. But before she can...
Maybe I should have done this when I had the chance.
But before she can, Cusack gets in the way and uses like these two twin sticks to basically pin her sword to the ground. And then he shoots out... actually, sorry. I thought these were laser eye... Maybe it still is. I can't tell if these are... Yeah, these are laser eye beams. For a moment, I thought it was his mustache shooting out. But yeah, he does use a laser...
That would have been even more amazing.
He does use laser eye beams, and she narrowly dodged it. There's a brief moment where Hendrickson is like begging Gil Thunder to wake up. And Merlin notes like, I can't heal him. Healing magic isn't enough to save him. And Hendrickson's like, Ludashel, please save Gil. And she's like, too busy for that. We get this whole big thing with Cusack and Chandler having a conversation with one another. They tell Zeldris to stay out of this. They'll handle it. And he's like, okay, fine, but just don't let them interfere with Melodious. And Cusack has a whole thing where he's like, as you wish, but don't forget, you will soon be surpassing me as your teacher. And basically we have a two-pair square-off right now, as it looks like Ludashel is going to be going up against Cusack, and Merlin will go up against Chandler. And there's a very long thing, as Escanar, who I forgot that when he doesn't have any strength is a complete wimp.
He's a goober, yeah.
He's like, oh, are they really that strong? And, Merlin's explained that, yes, they're the oldest, they possess tremendous strength, and it doesn't sound like they interacted much during the Holy War, so they're kind of mysterious as well. And then there's a one-page spread that's a different sequence of action shots. It's interesting, but it is also very hard to read. Basically, there's an exchange of blows between the two of Cusack and Ludashel, and it ends with Ludashel's armor mostly getting kind of destroyed. And Cusack is very excited. He's like, I'm the one who taught Zeldris Sama the way of the sword, after all. So Ludashel like stabs him with like her sword arm, and I love Cusack. He just fucking headbutts her. He's just boosh and just.
I am the greatest swordsman of the demon world.
And he fucking cracks her skull open. She is bleeding immediately. Excuse me. Then we cut over to the other fight, and Merlin has to start off with Exterminate Ray. So then Chandler uses Exterminate Ray, and there's a big Dragon Ball Z Kamehameha fight that's going on between two beams meeting. And I do love it because in the shot where they meet, it's an overhead view, and you just see an eek coming from the other side. And I was like, oh yeah, of course, it's Escanar. He's screaming eek the moment these two attacks happen. Merlin says, hey, Escanar, get to your sacred treasure in the opening I'm going to give. And he's a coward, so he's like, I don't know. Merlin uses Enchant Infinity, so she basically makes her beam so much bigger that it temporarily stuns Chandler and gives some time for Escanar to get over to his weapon. But Ludashel shows up, and she's like, what's up with these guys? Like, I can't touch them. Is this their magical power? And they're like, yeah. So they're the strongest, fastest, toughest people around. And to put it bluntly, they have no weaknesses. So what the fuck are we going to do? And Merlin ends the chapter by saying, if they have no weaknesses, then I'll give them a weakness. It's a pretty cool one-page spread.
And also somehow there are tiny wounds that have appeared on Chandler and Cusack's bodies. So
I like the chapter. I'm super intrigued to see where this goes. I guess I never realized till now how much Merlin's pauldrons look like World of Warcraft drops that were like weird drops you didn't want to keep, but you're like, fuck it, that's all I have. I dig it though.
Excuse me. Yep. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I sort of wish that maybe we had gotten a skipped week this week and saved this one for a two-pager. Two-chapter special because, like, there's not a whole lot going on. But, oh well. All right, let's talk a bit about the Promised Neverland, Chris. It's chapter 112.
In Promised Neverland this week. I'm trying to remember. Oh, all right. Exactly.
Chris, the most important character, Oliver, did something.
I forgot that a demon just shows up out of nowhere.
It's chapter 112. Morning. Andrew's got what's-her-face at gunpoint and is like, you can't shoot me! And someone shoots him. Oliver shoots him in the hand and the shoulder. Immediately, people rush in to save Alicia. And he's like, what the fuck? My joints! How could you? How was I shot so accurately? That guy! Wow, what a great shot he is! And Oliver gets a flashback of him training with Lucas. Good job, Oliver. You're a great shot. You're so amazing, Oliver.
Nick, don't you remember? Oliver's a very important and cool character.
Oh, man. So they've gotten Alicia to safety, but Dominic is still there. And even though Andrew's arms are basically useless, he can still curb stomp the little kid. So Ray is poised to take a shot at Andrew, and he just thinks to himself, like, I've got to do this. And he thinks about Yugo telling them, hey, kids shouldn't have to be burdened with this. And he thinks, sorry, but I'm ready to be burdened. But then he notices something.
I'm a big, strong adult, goddammit. Sometimes I watch Adult Swim, even though I'm not 16 years old. Rick and Morty is my favorite show.
I'm Pickle Ray!
That's his one. I'm Pickle Ray!
He's just like been saying it for like the past 4 weeks. Everyone's like, oh my god, shut up, Ray!
None of us watch it. None of us get this reference.
And even if we did get it, it wouldn't be that funny, you asshole.
It's super funny because you don't appreciate how funny Rick and Morty is. There's also
you have to be an intellectual. You have to be an intellectual like #Ray in order to understand the humor in Rick and Morty.
Ray, I'm sure it's very funny. I'm glad you enjoy it. Shut the fuck up.
So Ray notices something though as he takes aim at Andrew. Meanwhile, Andrew's like, stupid pigs! And then, a demon shows up behind him. And I love that, like, Andrew is frozen in mid-stomping pose when it comes up behind him. Because he's just like,
It's really like an old-school cartoon where, like, I don't know, like Dennis the Menace and Mr. Wilson were having, like, an escalating fight of some kind. And, like, Dennis, like, I don't know, like, threw a bunch of like leaves on Mr. Wilson's lawn, and Mr. Wilson is like about to dump like a garbage can on top of like Dennis, and then like the wife walks out and is like, what are you doing? Like, oh, you have to appreciate this. You may need to reset your mic settings then real quick. So Andrew, the poor fool, gets fucking devoured. Just crunched. I'm curious why the demon showed up now and not in any of like the previous opportunities. We're reconnecting with Nick here, so you can hear a little extra noise there, guys. Apologies for that. But yeah, I don't know, the demon showed up now. I guess people were saying the gunshots alerted him. I had to go back and check. I wonder if there were gunshots though when Andrew was killing all the other kids. So, I don't know. All right. Let me throw this on for Nick for the moment being. All right, I'm just going to continue this in a moment. Hopefully Nick will be back in just a quick sec. We'll be, hold on a sec. Nope. All right. Hopefully Nick will be back in just a quick second here. But yeah, so Andrew gets eaten, and all the kids are like, now's our chance, run! And they run, and Andrew's eaten. And presumably, this time, he will not come back because he is dead. He's very, very dead. But his glasses are still there, so maybe there's a chance. All right, hold on a sec. Try that. I'm gonna try giving Nick a call here. You guys get to hear the in-show song now. There we go. All right.
Hey, all right, fixed. Good.
Cool beans. So, Andrew's dead, Nick.
What a character.
Everybody, moment of silence for Andrew.
I do love the shot of him actually getting eaten with his, legs and arms sticking out. Just go, ah!
It's as graceful as his entire character has been this past 3 weeks.
Also, somehow his glasses wound up on the floor at some point. All right. The kids gather up the bodies of the people that Andrew killed. Everyone who was at Goldie Pond learns that Hugo and Lucas are dead. And Oliver's like, they went with honor, protecting us to the end. Jillian is especially broken up about this.
I want to be the one guy who's like, sounds like they didn't do anything except die, because Andrew still made it here and killed like 4 of us. But whatever.
A bunch of kids cry. And then Ray goes outside and he shoots an owl, a robot owl, which is actually a recording device. And he's like, this is how they were able to know where we are and avoid the surveillance cameras around the shelter. This thing figured out.
I knew it. Owls only come out in the daytime. Ray, that's exactly the opposite of what owls do. Oh, well, it's a good thing this was a robot then.
Anyway, does anyone want Owlmate? It took me about 20 attempts to find the actual robot.
I'm just gonna say Owlmate, if you season it, it's awful. But I have a lot of it. It's gonna go bad otherwise.
So you have to eat it for the next 4 meals you have.
We'll force it just upon the youngest and least responsible of us.
So he realizes that their under the trees hideout is also no good because they have probably been tracked to this point, and people will probably come here as well. So people are like, what do we do then? Should we find another safe place? Should we just wander around? And Emma speaks to Oliver and is like, hey, tell them that thing that you told me. And Oliver's like, I am an important character guy, so listen up. This is the thing that Lucas received before the end. There's an ally, a supporter who survived and stuff. And so they're going to try and make their way to this new mysterious supporter. Some random kid with black hair is like, is there no safe place for us to live? And Emma's like, no, tough shit. Okay, she actually says no, but we're going to fight to obtain that. And within 2 months, we'll change the world. We'll be able to do it. We're going to do it. For Hugo and Lucas. Big inspirational speech. She said, let's go to the place where they called us from. And we cut over to the people who called them as some figure hidden in shadows says, I hope that announcement reached that shelter too. And a guy in a suit comes behind him and says, it should have. Let's begin. James!
God, I'm getting like Lost flashbacks with this shit when like an episode of Lost would ends with like a guy being like, perhaps we should begin, Henry. And then like they turn to like the camera and it's just a person. You're like, all right, cool.
I've never seen that before. Okay.
I guess I'll wait to find out who Henry is next week because now I give a fuck, I guess. I'm going to be very honest. This is, I think, some doo-doo fucking garbage at this point. I want to like the Promised Neverland right now. But I think that the series has now very much betrayed what it was about when, 5 characters now have died and none of them are mentioned. We don't know their names. There's no eulogy for them. Hugo and Lucas died, but like 3 kids died in this fucking last 2 chapters and there's no mention of them. And it's hard to legitimately buy into the idea that Emma and everyone considers themselves to be one giant family. If like 5 members of your family died and you don't mention anything about them, it kind of breaks that illusion.
Also, they very quickly assuaged the two kids that were going to get curb stomped and shot of having any guilt by saying like, no, there was this owl that was following us, as opposed to, it was like, well, he only found you because you idiots went back to try and find Yuko and Lucas. And so because that these kids died, it's like, no. See, this would have happened anyway because of the owl following us. So they don't have to feel guilty.
Yeah, I mean, that was a chance to like give them some character development or something too. But like, it's just one of those things when you're like, you have so many fucking characters in this goddamn story, and only like,
and none of them are developed.
Like you have maybe 10 that have a character to them outside of their name. Like, use one of those 10 if you have to, and give them some character development. But like, having a moment where we're just like, no, he's gonna step on Dominic.
Well, like, imagine, if they had done this entire thing the same way, except like even like it was like Jillian and Nigel who were really gung-ho about going to do this because they were so connected to Lucas, and then it was the two characters that we had gotten at least to know a little bit during the Goldie Pond incident who were being held captive. Then it would be like, well, I care at least a little bit now.
Yeah. So like, literally, I don't know who Dominic is. I assume he's one of the kids from the farm, but I don't know. Like, and it's just one of those things that just doesn't hold much weight.
Really excited about that Promised Neverland anime.
It's tough, man. We were so high on Promised Neverland for so long, but this last arc,
it's going to cover the good parts in this first season at least.
That is true. Those first parts were golden, but yeah, I don't know. We shall see. All right, let's move on then. We have no One Piece, so I think we're wrapping up then with Black Clover.
There's a World Trigger chapter, Chris.
I forgot we were putting World Trigger at the end. I was like, there's no fucking One Piece, so that's it. Black Clover, page 182, The Apostles of Saphira. So Rhea goes into, I don't know, some lab. There's a lab inside the giant rock, and some cages burst open.
Naked people!
Yeah, and it's Fauna and Veto. And they're reincarnated into what I guess is more appropriate elf form bodies for them. I'm not sure what's happening. If I cared more about the series, maybe I'd know. But anyway, Fauna and Veto are back, Nick. Fan favorites. Fauna has this whole thing where she notes like, oh, hey, my mind's a lot clearer now. And, oh, Salamander's gone. And then it moves on to a joke with Rhea being like, wow, for a 15-year-old, your boobs are great.
Yeah.
Super awesome. There's a whole bunch of stuff about like, oh, the spires are beginning to float. There's, I guess, 10 different spots on the Serapha that need to be have someone on them to power them. So we see a whole bunch of characters. Gauche and Rill are part of them, and Fauna and Veto are on them. So all these characters are going to power it. And they note that once the reincarnation is complete, Patry will be the old leashed again.
Well, leashed will be the old leashed again.
I keep forgetting Patry's not leashed. It fucks with me immensely.
I get the impression that this may be foreshadowing that they could be wrong. And leashed is not going to be the old leashed again.
I mean, the leashed we saw before suggests leashed wasn't actually like a crazy radical like this.
Right.
So he's probably going to come back and be like, what are you guys doing? Or something like that. So there's a whole thing there where Rhea looks out. And it's like, wow, what a great view. This party's in full swing. So let's get started. And they reveal that what they're going to do is infuse the stone with magic, and it'll open that which was sealed inside Clover Castle, a door to the underworld, which from far away kind of looks like the art for Toon World in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's all I can really see now.
Dun, 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 dun.
I sung Manga Ryogoku or whatever it was.
Manga Ryoran.
That's it. So the elf that shit, I forgot about this. So there's the one elf that encountered Mimosa, Kirsch, and N. And we find out, I guess his human name was David. I don't know if we actually know what it is now that he's an elf. But this person is explaining like how the Shadow Palace acts as like a sort of a border between this world and the world of the next. And the elves entrusted it to the humans as a result of an ancient pact. only the Apostles of Saphira, 10 elves who are able to receive divine revelations, can open it. So when they put the final magic stone into the pedestal, the elves' reincarnation will be finalized. In exchange, the souls of all the humans who own those bodies will be sent to the underworld.
So this guy really is asking Clover, Chris.
He exactly is. He explains everything.
He just explains everything while being all quirky and weird. Yeah.
And Kirsch just something I'm not quite sure. He says, beautiful as I am, I won't allow a thing like that. I'm not sure what your beauty has to do and why being beautiful would have traditionally in expectations made you more susceptible to that.
Being beautiful makes you really easydgoing and accepting of things.
I guess. So contrary to that, he's actually not on board with being sent to hell. And I don't know why this fucks with me so much. David's magic is dice.
It's stupid, honestly, because like
he rolls a dice, rolls a 2, and counters Kirsch's attack. And they're like, oh, whatever he rolls gives him an effect and advantage in the current situation. The larger the roll, the greater advantage. So if he's rolling like that on a 2, that's completely ridiculous. I'm like, so wait, unless he crit fails, he just does great stuff.
His stats are really good.
Apparently. So he's like, well, I doubt it'll do too much, but give it your best shot. And he starts bouncing away. And then we start seeing an army of different turned people headed towards Yami and the great hero, Jack the Ripper, along with Noelle and Zora. But before that combat can happen, poof, the portal opens up, and it's the Black Bulls! And they're like, are you ready, everybody? And I feel like this is a panel that maybe Tabata just gets the opportunity to use over and over, where every character is like, ah, with their mouths open, and he's just like, oh, sweet, this one fits this one, too.
I'm surprised they still don't all have food in their mouths.
Oh, yeah,
really?
Probably. Well, Charmy does.
Well, Charmy does, obviously, but she's Charmy. But I was expecting everyone would still be eating because he really seemed to be a fan of that joke when these guys were around the previous time. So,
what a chapter.
Anyway, they're here now.
Yeah, they're here. And I don't know. I'm just so fucking... So, Nick, you didn't play Kingdom Hearts.
I've been playing through the first one a bit with Nicole, but I've never finished it now.
So in Kingdom Hearts 2, there's Organization 13. And all the members have their own little fucking battle gimmick. And a lot of them are just based on traditional elements.
How many members of Organization 13 are there?
15? Or something like that. Well, that's the first incarnation. There's a second one now that's based off the 13 Hearts of Darkness that will then help to team up with the 7 Hearts of Light to create the actual Keyblade. I think there's 15. If you count Riku, well, no, I guess Riku wasn't. Zion was an imaginary number. That is.
You don't have to explain anymore. I got you.
All right. So anyway, they all have their own little special abilities. Throughout many of the games, you've already beaten most of the characters. So when Kingdom Hearts 2 actually happens, I think you fight like 6 of them. And a lot of them you kind of beat in preparation. But going into the final castle, I think there's like 3 you haven't fought. And one of them's like sort of like the second lieutenant of everything. And it's like a big deal. And you go into one room and you fight Luxord, whose gimmick is he's a gambler. And you just fucking clown school him and you never see him. Like, it's just like, we have to fight the gambler now. And you just fucking clown shoe him. And then it's never.
All right, time for me to roll my dice. Stop.
You're just like, what a fucking pointless detour in this bullshit that we never found a spot for the gambler character before. Let's just knock this guy out. And I can't help but get the exact same feeling about this character.
Well, I guess we'll see him actually show up again, though. So.
Presumably, yeah. I mean, he seems like he's a very big deal.
Well, all right, Chris. So we've had all of the super elves that possess people be defeated, but now all that we're left with are the apostles of Sephira, the most important of the elves. So maybe, Chris, maybe these guys will actually be formidable. Won't just be defeated by Asta hitting them with a sword.
Yeah, we've already known 2 of these characters have already been defeated by characters who currently exist.
There's 10 of them now. They're the 10 most important ones.
I mean, I don't even know if we know all 10. I think we know like 6 of them. And they were just like, there's others. I mean, Benjamin Ben Funk is still out there somewhere, so maybe he'll get in there and be a part of it.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see how this goes. And let's cap things off then with World Trigger, Chapter 168. Suzunari 1, Part 3. On the shopping mall, 6th floor, with Kurama and Murakami taking on Kageura and Kitazoe. And yes, Murakami reveals that he has a black Kogetsu now, which surprises one of the announcers. And Ashihara says, oh yeah, this is actually the first time seeing him use this.
By the way.
Arashiyama, sorry.
No, it's cool.
Ashihara is the name of the... I have made that mistake a lot, honestly. Ashihara is the name of the author. Arashiyama is the name of the dude. Gotcha. Okay. So, Kageura and Kitazoe are fighting, seemingly pressing the advantage. There's a cool bit where Kageura uses his whip attacker thing in order to send out his blade, but Ko just kind of gets in front of it and slices off the tip of it. It's cool. Then we get a bit of analysis on the attackers in terms of their solo win rate against each other in practice matches, and I was like, Kageura's got a bit of an advantage over the other two. So, but the main thing that's going to, of course, determine this is the fact that, well, each of them has a backup from their gunner at this point. It's going to be how they can coordinate with each other that determines the winner of this battle. And then suddenly the tide, as Suzunari is being pushed, suddenly the tide turns because Kurama drops his shield and pulls out a second gun and just starts unloading on Zoe. And what they realize is that essentially they perform like a tennis strategy where they trade off on who is defending so that the other can just pour on the attack. So Kurama's dual wielding rifles while Murakami defends, which allows them to mix their attack and defense strategy at different ranges. And this is really bad for Zoe because he's just basically got to go into turtle mode and he can't be as effective attacking. And Kageura actually calls for a retreat as a result of all of this. Then we cut over to Osamu, who is facing off against Okudera on the 3rd floor. Also, Korai is there. And so this is not looking good for him, is it? Got to take on 2 of these guys. He starts unleashing some spiders while he's running away up a stairwell to try and get away, but Korai just kind of pops up on a balcony with grasshoppers. So Osamu tries to, launch him over the balcony by using his thruster to shove him. And then as he's running along the corridor, he spots Yuzuru, who's basically just like, I'm going to get that thing into Team Fortress 2 with the penetrating sniper rifle. I'm totally going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Finally going to get that achievement.
He's got all of the ducks lined up in a row. He blasts them with his sniper rifle, and Osamu has great presence of mind to not only dodge it, but also to snap his ray gust around and smash Korai into the balcony so that the bullet whizzes past both of them. And Okudera realizes, he saved him so that the Kageura squad wouldn't score points from that. So, well done there, Osamu. But before much more can happen, as every one of the 4 of them is reacting to the situation, suddenly we cut down to Stupid Hat Kid in the basement, and he's messing with the power in the building and turns all the lights off. And everyone, of course, is momentarily stunned by this, except for Yuzuru, who shoots Osamu's arm off because he was able to see the light from his trigger in the darkness. And that's where the chapter ends, with Yuzuru thinking to himself, time to end you. So,
very interesting. So Replica Rabbit in the chat has a good theory that perhaps the reason Ko's blade is black is not because it has the weight trigger added onto it, but because then he can use his blade in the darkness and people won't be able to see the flashes of steel or anything like that. So, yeah, a good interesting theory. I'm very sad for Osamu. He lost an arm. He's not out. He didn't have to bail out, although it does seem like it's a pretty devastating hit to take. So
it's got only one arm now, yeah.
But I'm very excited to see where this goes because there's so many things that just like you need to see the like we haven't seen Yuma or Hyusei in this at all. We haven't seen Azuma do anything yet. And just one of those things where you're like, ooh, there's something that's going to happen soon. And I'm excited to see where it is. But it's worth noting, everybody, this is the last chapter of World Trigger in a weekly format. So I believe starting next week, it goes... Well, I don't know if it's going to start monthly next week, but it's starting monthly now, I believe.
Let me see here.
I thought so. I didn't think there was another week of it. Although I thought I heard somebody say it was starting monthly in December, so I guess there would be one more week in November left.
I think that we're going to get a chapter of it next week.
Okay. I thought it was 4 chapters.
According to this, also Hunter x Hunter is going back on hiatus after next week.
Well.
Oh God.
What are you gonna do, right? You can't win them all.
And we're gonna start getting some new jump starts very soon as well. So.
All right. I like that chapter World Trigger though very much.
Some good action in it. All right. So we're gonna end things here for this week. Chris, what were your favorite chapter and your MVP?
I'm gonna give my favorite chapter to Dr. Stone. I really
enjoyed
that chapter.
Agreed.
I loved everything it did, and I'm super excited for the next chapter.
Yeah.
MVP. You tell me. I'll pick after you.
Well, thanks.
Hey, normally I have to be first.
No, fair enough. I'm actually going to go with Fumino. Okay. I really do like the speech that she gave, really actually laying out not just her love of astronomy, but showing that she really is actually very knowledgeable about this, despite the fact that she's not strong in the sciences in general. This is a real area of expertise for her. The fact that she, knows how the stars work scientifically speaking. She knows the names of so many of them. She can just point them out and name a whole lot. And also, I really liked the conversation she had with Yuiga, where he explains that because she loves astronomy so much, he actually has grown his own interest in it just because she's able to talk so passionately about it. And that really does come across in this chapter. And I do really appreciate that she doesn't just give this passionate speech and then her dad's like, okay, I understand. So, no. She's prepared with something else that we're going to find out next week. So a very good chapter for Fumino.
I will give it to Fumino as well. Now, I guess I give it to Senku just for the emotion of that scene. I don't know if it's particularly him, but I do definitely enjoy just that moment of like quiet realization that he's just like, I'm talking to a fucking corpse at this point.
Speaking of courses, my actual MVPs for this week are Nameless Dead Children 4 and 5 from the Promised Neverland. So they really went out in a great way,
I'm
Chris.
never going to forget them.
Never.
Actually, maybe that's the better MVP is fucking Andrew going out like, foot raised in the air to stomp a child and just like, oh, what did I do to deserve this?
That's going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on smashcast.tv/RWBY or twitch.tv/RWBY. We record the show on Thursdays normally at around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow us on Twitter for updates, though. At WMR Podcast is the official podcast account, and your hosts are at Roloti and at Nick F. Time. Be sure to check out our past episodes on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, as well as on our YouTube channel and on iTunes. Subscribe to us, leave a comment, leave a rating, and help us to ascend the rankings and overcome the great entity of darkness known as the Woodworkers. Also, be sure to send us feedback, ask us questions, suggest manga for us to read. You can do that stuff via email to weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com. But you can also check out our Discord server. Use the WMR recommendations chat to make recommendations. That's a great way for us to keep track of that stuff. And big ups to Ninja X3i once again for the spreadsheet they've created, tracking a whole lot of the stuff that has been recommended to us. Special thanks as well go out to all of our Patreon supporters. Your support allows us to create all sorts of fun content for you guys to enjoy. Steve Mann, our tarot artist, you can check out his work in a bunch of different places, including his own Patreon, patreon.com/SteveMann, and Infamous Planet for all the stuff that you do for our show as well. And that's going to do it.
Damn straight. And guys, I don't know if you're listening to this before or after, but have a great Thanksgiving. Friendsgiving or self-giving or whatever you're doing. Enjoy yourself.
Hope you guys spend some quality time with the people that you love.
And maybe some people you don't like your neighbor's dog. Fight that good doggo over and give it some turkey. Can't have turkey probably, but give it some anyway. I don't know.
Kill it.
Yeah, kill the dog. Kill your neighbor's dog, guys.
That's what Thanksgiving's really all about.